Well, hello, my friends. Welcome back to Satisfactory, the beautiful moth flying in the sky, the moon, the Saturn-like planet, the Arch, and of course our humble base await us. In this episode, what we're going to do is take our basic base that we built out in last episode, and we're going to expand it, upgrade it, and finally we're going to build a power system that can take us through the early stages of the game. So since the last episode, what I've done is pop into Tier 1. Remember, Tier 0 is your hub upgrades 1 to 6 that we covered in last video, and I've unlocked 2 tiers requiring nothing more than materials we've already built in the game already. So just concrete, plates, rods, and some wire. So I've unlocked base building, which gives us the ability to build foundations. And I've also unlocked logistics, which gives us probably the most important things in the game, which would be the ability to split, merge, and lift items on conveyor belts. And I'm going to show you what I've done with that really quickly. So the very first thing I did is deconstruct some of the initial factory here and build a very simple system for some organization on this planet, right? So what you can do is I bound my foundation to 5. So if I press 5, I'm here. Now a couple shortcuts that are really going to help you. Notice if I press Control, it's going to snap to some sort of grid system, and that is called the world grid. So if you notice, if I go ahead and place that down, take a look at how this faces. This faces exactly west, exactly north, east, and south. So the world grid is facing the cardinal directions, which makes it really easy to build facilities that line up across the entire map. So if I was to run over there, build something on the world grid, and build this on the world grid, which it is, then I'm good to go. I don't have to worry about them matching at all when you actually build, systems that connect factories to factories. So what I'm going to do now is explain just a couple more shortcuts that help you build here. So again, Control snaps. You can press H and you can actually freeze it. So I'm no longer holding any button whatsoever except for the moving buttons. And then you can use the arrows to move around. You can nudge it about 5 or 6 different spots. You can't do it forever, which is a little unfortunate, but it's helpful when you need to put something in place. Another thing that's very helpful is if you press E, you can move from different heights. So I can go 1, 2, and 4 meter. Similarly, if I was to choose, let's say, the ramp and press E, I'd go 1, 2, and 4 meter ramps, and I can use the scroll wheel to orient them, or I can press Control to click it. So those are also super helpful. The one that you'll probably use the most, though, is just changing the building mode. You'll notice this building mode is default here. So if I just snap and click, it's just going to build one foundation, which can be very tiresome. So what I'm going to do is press R to go to Zoop. And what that does is if I click, it still doesn't place it. The hologram's still there, but I can drag this out in any direction 10 squares. So I can come out 10 there and build a very long pathway if I want to. There's one more build mode, which is vertical. If you're trying to build a wall or get up to another floor when you build a vertical factory, this can also be very helpful. So I use Zoop quite a bit. So that's what I did. I just came through and I cleaned this up a little bit. You can actually place miners on top of foundations if you want to, as long as they're not too tall. It's about this tall as much as you can handle, otherwise it won't let you place it. And the bore actually goes through it when it turns on. It doesn't go through right now because I'm out of power. And that is what we're doing in today's video. I only have these 2 small little biomass burners that are producing 20 megawatts each. And then I have this guy right here that I built, which is what we unlocked in our last hub upgrade. So if you remember over here, we got the ability to create biomass burners that aren't attached to the hub, which is going to unlock at least like a semi-automated source of power. So the only thing I'm missing right here is that I don't have any fuel in, and I can go ahead and power this. But what I need to do is collect a lot more biomass to make sure that I can keep my factories running while I'm collecting enough materials to actually automate the power itself. There's one more thing I need to unlock before we build this power system, and this would be obstacle clearing. This is super important because you're going to get the chainsaw, which allows you to cut down trees and larger things, and you're also going to get an even more dense form of biofuel called solid biofuel. So we just need a touch more components. They're only slightly more complex, but nothing that we can't craft. In fact, I already have enough cable and I already have enough of the concrete. So I just need to get some screws. And this is why it starts to become very vital to create this power system, because you just keep running out of power in the early game unless you build something somewhat automated. All right, we've got our screws. I handcrafted those just because I don't have the patience right now to set up the facility, but we don't need it. So we've got the ability now to create one of the most fun things in the early game, which would be the chainsaw. So if you don't see it here, you have to uncheck only show affordable recipes, And we need to make sure that we've got the materials for this. So we'll add it to our to-do list. And let's go ahead and craft it up. We just need one of these guys. We need a little bit more on the screws. And then we're going to need a few rods, which we are actively depleting as we create our screws. But trust me, once you get your power system set up, you stop moving into this hand crafting zone as much, because you can actually afford to build the structures without having to then run around and gather up all the biomass, which is a little bit annoying. So it's just a progressive system in this game. And even this biomass system becomes obsolete very quickly, but it's fun to build out every single item that you need to kind of move from stage to stage. And it's perfect timing because we just ran out of power yet again. So what we'll do is build our chainsaw, and our chainsaw has the ability to be powered by solid biofuel, which we just learned how to make. So to make that, you actually have to make biomass first from wood or leaves. We'll do that, and then we're going to construct it into solid biofuel, which the chainsaw will take. We'll equip it, and we'll get to chopping. Okay, we don't need a ton there. We just need enough to get our job started here. So let's go ahead and chop up this entire forest over here. And this is where you get into the exploit part of the game, guys. This is what Ada has asked us to do. So there's two modes. You can go into single mode, which will just cut down one tree, which I literally never use. And you can go into area mode, which will clear out a fair amount of space. So, for example, if I pop on over to this tree here, it will also take out that bush to the left of me. And it just makes a lot quicker work of the surrounding terrain. You can chop down more than you think. I mean, these big trees, these guys will go. And they'll provide you with a lot of wood. Take a look. So we just got 11 wood and 41 leaves from that. Let's set up our foundations. And remember, it's just a power generation station, so you don't need this to be necessarily like near anything else. You can create a totally separate structure if you want, and as you get further on in the game with more decorations, you can build it into something that looks really cool. So I'm going to build it up on this hill here, get this nice view of our arch, which eventually we'll visit. And I'm just going to go 4 foundations wide, because at the very start, all we need is the ability to place down 2 constructors, which I need some plates for, and some storage containers, because I need something to feed into the constructors. So we're going to go storage to biomass constructors, to solid biofuel constructors, to biomass generators or biomass burners over here. All we need is that. It's as simple as that. Then you go around chopping some stuff down, toss it into the storage containers, and you will generate quite a bit of energy, and you'll be in a really good spot. So what I've done now is I've planned out exactly what I need. So I need 2 storage containers, 4 constructors, and that will support about 15 biomass burners, and I'll show you why that math works in just a second here. But now I can start working on all those materials I need to get that job done. It looks like I need quite a bit, and I still haven't built out anything that allows me to automate reinforced iron plates yet, because I haven't even unlocked the machine that lets me do it. So we're still in manual craft mode for just a touch longer here, but we will escape it very soon. All right, let's set up our power facility, guys. The first thing we need is to grab the constructor. I'm going to place one exactly over one foundation right here, and this is what's going to accept our leaves and our wood. So we're going to throw a storage container down here, align that, and then we'll press Control to align it with both itself, its pair, and the other constructor here. And what we need to do is we need to set one of these to produce biomass using leaves, and one of them will produce biomass using wood. So now we can take our raw inputs and turn it into biomass, but we need to do one more solid here and turn it into solid biofuel. So again, I'm just keeping this really tight. You don't have to build it this tight if you don't want to, but you know, it's a nice little flow here. So all we're going to do is go solid biofuel here and solid biofuel here. So it doesn't really matter the input and output math on these, because this is not a consistent input. It's not like you're mining the biomass. You're actually just going to be manually feeding that in. That's the nature of this system. And it's about as automated as you can get it. So it doesn't really matter that it's 60 wood for 300 or that it is 120 leaves for 60. It just matters that you have a nice consistent flow coming in to produce your biofuel. And then what we need to do is we need to join all of this together. So this is why we needed to unlock our conveyor belt stuff. So our logistics materials. So I'm going to place merger on 6 and splitter on 7 on my hotbar. And all I want to do is merge these together. And you'll notice there's arrows, right? So all the input arrows are converging upon this one output arrow, which I'm going to put right here in the middle. And I'll back it up just a touch to keep it a little bit more compact. And then this is where you get into some fun little conveyor issues. So there's a couple build modes, right? There's straight and default. Default will kind of take a normal curved path towards an output or an input, and straight will have it be perfectly straight. So it'll be perfect right angles, right? So if I was to come out here and then turn this way, you'll notice it's a perfect right angle, whereas default would just kind of go whatever the shortest path is. So I'm going to come in here and here. So now what I have is a system that's taking my raw inputs, converting them into biomass, converting that into biofuel, joining that together, and now I can build my biomass burners. So what I want to do here is grab one, and we're going to split this output across all of the biomass burners that we have. So what I'm going to do is actually place a splitter right about here, and this is where we're going to begin our little journey on this system. Actually put it perfectly in the center. You might not be that kind of player. I kind of am. I like things to be centered, even, etc. if I'm building a more final system. So biomass has an input. We'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll reverse it over here and do that and make sure that we're even, and we are. So now, if I power this up, we're going to see what happens. Okay, so let's toss our leaves in here. Let's toss our wood in here, and let's watch this process start. There we go. We are now producing. Looks like the wood is ahead of us, so let's go take a look at that. And what's going to happen is it's going to feed the solid biofuel automatically into our burners, which once they get fuel will, because they're connected to our network right here, start powering our network. And this is how you get from the very, very beginning of the game to what I'd call phase 1 power in the game, because this is the most dense form of fuel you're going to get for just a little bit. We'll upgrade pretty soon here, but look at that. Already my capacity has increased, and I have way more of a buffer for my power generation. I don't have to worry about potentially running out as much. So what I can do now is mimic the placement here, and as I get more materials, I can just continue to expand this out to about 15 or so, because the amount of biomass that you can produce from this system when at max capacity will support about 15 of these guys. So I added some more biomass burners, and I want to show you using this lookout tower, which is actually a really helpful way to plan builds earlier on in the game. You can find it in the organization tab, exactly what we've got going on. So again, there's our 2 storage facilities. We've got those going into 2 constructors, one for leaves and one for wood. Those both turn each of those biomass sources into solid biofuel, and then we go down the line here with 14 biomass burners. So 7 and 7, and then that extra one right there. Now what I recommend you do now is go out and grab a boatload of leaves and of wood and toss it in here, because now that this is automated and we have a ton of power, you're going to slowly fill up this system. Now what we've decided to do here is what's called a manifold system. So all of our biofuel is coming in on this one line, and it's being split out side by side all the way down the line. So this is splitting into thirds. We have a third going here, a third going forward, and a third going here, which means that these are going to fill up first, these 2 biomass generators, then these 2 are going to fill up, then these 2 are going to fill up. And actually it'll take a while for the very last biomass burner to fill up. In fact, this one doesn't even have any fuel yet, because of the way that this manifold system works. We can show you in the future how to build what's called a load balancing system, which allows these to fill up at just a touch faster. But in my opinion, it doesn't really matter. You can set it and forget it, and this will eventually fill all the way up, because once this hits its 200 capacity, it will back up on this belt, and then this belt will not be able to accept anything, and it'll start throwing more of the output down this belt, and then that process will repeat all the way down the line. So in this video, we have unlocked foundations. We've built a power generation system that will eventually produce about 450 megawatts of power. So quite a bit of power. As you can see, we're only using about 1/10 of that right now. In the next video, we're going to unlock assemblers and start adding a little bit more character to our base. So subscribe, guys. This has been the Green Hand Games. I am actually a YouTuber with a bunch of subscribers, but not in gaming, and I'm having fun on this channel, so subscribe if you want to see more and help me improve, because I'm not actually a gaming YouTuber. I'm in a totally different category. So I'll see you next time. Peace out.